Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you happen to be watching this. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I need to point out that the people who design classes for online work or tell us how to design classes for online work are apparently sadists. And they tell us that ever so often we should make our faces known so that if you happen to run into us on the street, at McDonald's or wherever, that you should know who we are. And so, therefore, ever so often, I will have my face stuck in the bottom corner of one of these videos. I apologize in advance to those of you who thought you were signing up for a superhero class, not a horror comic class. Sorry about that. This intro, I think I'm just going to try to answer the question, what the heck are we doing? If you have any questions, shoot me an email. It's on the syllabus. My office hours are on the syllabus, and we'll just kind of go from there. Rule number one, enjoy being confused. Mr. Wolk here read every superhero comic Marvel has put out from 1961 through 2020 or 2021. And he points out that you are going to be baffled at first, that there is no way you can understand every part of the story. There is no way that any of these stories were designed to be read or that any reader is expected to know everything. But the fact of the matter is, you're going to be confused. Unless you have read thousands of comics, you're going to be confused. Enjoy it. Read your way out of it. It's a superhero comic. It's not nuclear physics. It's not a nursing manual where if you don't understand it, somebody's going to die. It's a superhero comic. You'll be able to read your way out of it. Enjoy reading your way out of the confusion. There's words and there's pictures. You have to pay attention to both. There's no way around that. Pay attention to the words, pay attention to the pictures. You're going to juggle the angles, you're going to have a different point of view. There's going to be a movie director who wrote one of the arcs that you're going to read. There's going to be shots that are designed to be like a photograph. There's going to be color. That color is going to be have a purpose. Pay attention to the words. Pay attention to the pictures. In an ideal world, I would have this as part of a cross curricular class, and I would have an art person beside me. We'll talk about it as best I can. Rule three, and actually, rule three, in a lot of ways, is going to be the rule you get to break the most. I've already sent out the information about using the online books, using the Marvel app or the DC app or Comixology if you want to. And if you do that, you will have the option of just clicking the mouse and the panels changing for you. There'll be a sequence, but the sequence will be set up for you. And so you probably won't notice the gutters as much. You won't notice some of the other things as much. But in a traditional comic book, it's a Z like pattern and follow that Z like pattern. So, Black Hammer, which you're supposed to have a hard copy of, read it with that Z like pattern in mind. And look, this might be a little touchy feely. I've said that in a couple other videos, or will say that in a couple other videos. But I think we should share the hero stories. We should let them resonate with us. That superhero can represent the best of all of us and give us the hope that we can be better human beings. In some of my classes, I talk about the human's purpose on earth is to learn how to become human. Superheroes, by being something beyond human, might at least help push us towards that human end, the goal of being a little more human. For just a second, let's take a look at what an overview is. I can't cover every Marvel book, every DC book, every Image book, every independent book that's ever been put out. I don't even want to try. We're going to take a broad, comprehensive view. It's going to be a survey. And as a survey, we're going to miss a whole bunch of stuff. Perhaps I should have made the picture a little larger, the screenshot a little larger. But one of the things I found interesting was that when I went to the definition of overview and I looked for some recent examples, there was a comic book that was part of the examples. While Whoopi Goldberg gave a brief overview of the change online, Dark Horse Comics, who was the publisher of the comic book, provided a better clue into the book's premise and in an official press release. So even when we're talking about overviews, Merriam-Webster Dictionary uses an example about comic books. So the idea of doing a comic book overview of superheroes apparently has a dictionary, Merriam-Webster Dictionary seal of approval. Let's do the nuts and bolts stuff, the stuff that you're perhaps even more interested in than my esoteric musings about enjoy being confused. First, I'm not a professional YouTuber. There are things about comics that I want to discuss, and you can see I'm not a professional YouTuber because the title of the slide didn't show up until just now. There are things I want to discuss that others haven't. And so you're going to have to listen to my take on some YouTube videos. I'll do my best to avoid making a lot of technical mistakes that distract from that, but you're going to see me make mistakes. And if my cat jumps on me, you'll probably hear me gasp. If the phone rings, you're going to hear it. If my neighbor's mowing the lawn, you might hear that too. I'm going to try to get rid of as many distractions as I can, but I'm not going to do dozens of takes. You won't find a bunch of fancy transitions. What you see is what you get. I'm on the wrong side of 65. I can collect Medicare. I'm happy that I can figure out how to post a video to YouTube. On the other hand, there are lots of things about comic books that others say better than I do, and you're going to be watching and listening to those people as well. Think of them as guest speakers. The grading thing. As much as I want to get people to focus on the material, I think it's almost always students' first thing. What's the grade? Essays, 30%. Daily writing, and daily writing is a misnomer. You're not writing 20 pieces. You're basically writing one a week. I just call it a daily writing out of habit. A summary response, some random stuff that I just want to toss in there, and YouTube comments and reactions. I'll tell you which videos you have to comment on and react to other people's comments. You can see the grading scale there. A lot of times, instead of 100, you might see a 40. I'll try to do the math so that it all figures out. Essays, 2 to 3 pages. The daily writing, you'll have options. The summary response, you'll have options. It might be quiz on random college stuff. There's some surveys, there's some other things. And then the YouTube comments and reactions. You're basically just going to be talking about what I've said. You're reacting to what I've said. You give your take. Other classes might do a discussion board or something like that. For me, we'll just do the discussion in one of the YouTube videos every week. The books we are reading are here. Please notice that Black Hammer needs to be hard copy because I want people to read at least one book hard copy to get that feeling for the Z pattern, to get that feeling for the splash pages, to get that feeling that brought millions of people into comics before they became digital. The rest of them can be digital. you're probably going to want to do them digitally because it's a lot cheaper. But if you want to spend the money and you have the money, go with God and be happy. I should point out that the Mark White book, um, A Philosopher Reads Marvel Comics, should be available through the bookstore. If you want to buy a Kindle because it's cheaper, or if somebody's already pirated it, you have your live with your own moral code. Some idiosyncrasies about the class. I realize that Brightspace is the learning system that Mount Marty uses. I don't like it for essays, for writing, for making comments on writing. And so please, you're going to have to submit the essays and only the essays to both Google Classroom and Brightspace. Everything else, Google Classroom only. Essays go to Google Classroom and Brightspace. I'll have the folder set up, treated like you would any other class. And you can also do the plagiarism check there as well. The grades will all be done in Google Classroom. If you have questions about finding where your grade is, I'll be happy to answer them for you. My office hours are going to be Tuesday 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. via Zoom, and a Wednesday 12:30 to 3:30 in BEAD 321, and by appointment. I should point out that this first Wednesday, June 7th, I'm going to be taking my mother to the cardiologist. I won't be there for that one. I hope to be there for all the rest of them. I will do my best to have all the assignments posted on Sunday by 6. I expect them by Friday at 11:59. I want to have everything graded and recorded by Tuesday at 9 p.m. So I'm going to be working through the weekend. When I wake up at 8 o'clock Saturday, I'm going to start correcting. This class is asynchronous. So the office hours are times when I make myself available for questions. They are not class meeting times. We don't have a class meeting time. Just want to make that clear. If you don't have any questions, or you've sent me an email and received replies that answer your questions, you don't have to show up for the Zoom office hours. You don't have to show up for the in-person office hours. They're office hours. The class stuff will be posted Sunday evenings. Do it at your leisure. If you want to get everything done between, 6 p.m. Sunday and 6 a.m. Monday morning, knock yourself out. Just have it done by whatever the due dates are. Some more idiosyncrasies. I'll ask students to look for or use C's. And I probably should have phrased that look for or use words that begin with C. Characterization. Who are these people? What kind of person are we dealing with? Conflicts. And remember, the conflicts are not just person versus person, they're person versus society. In some places, I think they're persons, the characters in the book, versus the medium they're in. If you've ever read a She-Hulk comic book, especially the ones before this run, or you watched the She-Hulk program on Disney, she's fighting with the medium, breaking the fourth wall, as much as she's fighting with bad super villains. Connections. And I think the connections are 3 or 4-fold. Connections to you personally, I've talked about that already. Connections to other things you've read, especially something that's mythological, fantasy, horror books, things like that. Connections to the real world that we're living in the year of our Lord 2023. And connections from week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4. How do we get from one of the characters in Black Hammer to one of the characters in the Shazam book? And how does that Shazam book get us to some discussion about mythology? How can we make all these connections? Comparisons. What's this like? And contrasts. How is this different from other things? And then concrete details. I was a debate coach. I've lived my life with the idea of claim, data, warrant. And the data is the concrete details. So when you're writing, concrete details, absolutely insist on concrete details to support your point. I'm you don't have to agree with me. You can disagree with me all you want. But what are the concrete details that back up your point? Some caveats about the discussions and some caveats about the books themselves, I guess, as well. You'll probably see this slide several times. We're looking at what the comics are doing. So, as we do that, you might be grossed out. I will tell you that in the Poison Ivy book, there's a scene that kind of grossed me out because I'm not sure if it constitutes cannibalism or not. And that's one of the things that kind of gets to me. Technically, the guy was a plant at the time and he got consumed, but still. You can disagree with, and there's a whole list of things to follow here. The characters' life choices, what they do, good, bad. You can disagree with the writer's political point of view as you perceive it. We're looking at what happens in superhero comics, period. And so if superhero comics have gay characters, whether that fits something that you agree with or disagree with, it's what's there. And if we're doing an overview, we're going to talk about it. We're going to deal with, like I said, supervillains. They do stuff that we consider heinous. We're going to deal with that. When I go through the books, I'm going to be trying to avoid excessive plot detail. I want to talk about why I picked the books. I want to talk about how the books tie together as a unit. I want to use them to set up future units. You're responsible for the plot detail, not me, you. You're responsible for the plot detail. So read them, enjoy them. They're comic book superheroes. All right? Again, like I've said earlier, we're not talking about nuclear physics. We're not talking about how to save somebody's life, the correct way to do the Heimlich maneuver or whatever. We're talking about comic book superheroes. Enjoy them. I think this is going to wrap it up. So, as we end this thing, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to talk to me, shoot me an email. It's on the syllabus. Um, and just kind of let me know what's going on. And again, I hope you find things you like here. I hope you find things you enjoy, whether it's things I say or whether it's the other people I bring in. But we're just going to look at comic book superheroes, and I hope we have a good month doing it. We'll start seeing, things will get posted starting Sunday night. And again, I hope everybody has a good weekend, and I hope we all have a good class.